Episode 35, Heart for Excellence. Well, Merrick, it's great to be here with you and Andrew. Yeah. And we're looking forward to this podcast. Just listening a little bit of Andrew's story, but I'm going to turn over to you, my friend, to introduce Andrew and tell a little bit about your story background and then jump right into it.
Sure. So I had the pleasure of meeting Andrew, about a year ago at a retreat. And I tell you I could tell you all the things about Andrew, but, three things that come to my mind when it comes to Andrew. It's great cook.
That's how we met, actually.
Yeah, it may or may not have to do something with the stomach. Great cook. Great fan of music, very niche music. So much niche that Andrew is actually a fan of a Polish group that I didn't know existed. So real niche music. And another thing that just blows my mind away is his language skills. I mean, this guy. How many languages do you speak now?
English, obviously, but
because I know you went to a French phase where you had a lot of French stuff on the Facebook.
Oh yes, I learned French pretty much to a level where I could get around a French city all by myself without the use of English.
Which you did, right?
Yes,
Europe. And now,
that was after 6 months of study. So
yeah, and there is no way I could have gotten that far to 6 months study. And now you're into Czech, right?
Yes,
Czech.
Which is like 50% of the way to Poland, so I'm getting closer to your place. And I'll get there someday.
That's kind of cool because Czech is similar to Poland, so the stuff that Andrew posts, I can actually understand. So
commonalities.
It makes me feel not smarter than I actually am. so thank you, Andrew.
And I secretly telling you that you're dumb.
No. It's all my insecurities. But
okay.
But having said that, given those three things, well, what else is it that you like to the audience know about you?
Well, that's really where a lot of my major focus is, aside of my day job. So I started working in the field of people with autism and developmental disabilities in 2013 because I took a class on psychology of learning and behavior and how people learn at the University of Houston Clear Lake. And I really fell in love with how that works and how that explained a lot of how we learn and how we can even use the knowledge of how we learn to improve people's lives, and especially those who have a hard time learning.
Wow.
And so I eventually got actually offered a volunteer position at a local behavioral clinic that uses applied behavior analysis, which is basically the science of behavior and how it works, to teach individuals with autism. And that I eventually ended up getting that position in May 1st, 2014. I actually got offered the job on April Fool's Day, so at first I didn't believe it.
But it was true?
Yeah, I mean, they came back to me and 10 minutes after I said, I actually want to work here. And they said, well, you're hired.
What was your affinity to the autism?
Well, for one, I actually am on the autism spectrum. And my cousin is as well, and some other immediate family members think they might be. And I have a few friends as well that are also on the spectrum. So,
how old were you when you realized that you had autism then?
Yeah, I was diagnosed at the age of 3, but I wasn't told until I was about 13. And when I heard about it, I realized this actually makes a lot of sense.
Right. Interesting.
So, I mean, that can be a really big asset to me in the sense that I am very passionate about something that I love.
Yeah, like languages, cooking.
Yeah, I get in the mode of I want to do something, and I seriously love it. There's nothing that can distract me from that.
Amen.
Because I'm extremely focused on making that a reality. I would study French for about 3 hours a day for 3 months in a row.
And then you went to France?
Yes, I was in France for 11 days, and I was with my mom for the first 7.
Yeah.
And then I went down to Marseille for 2 days all on my own. And then met with a friend of mine in Nice for 2 days, and then went over to Germany to see some more niche bands, including the Polish band we're talking about.
So you went to Germany to see a Polish band, okay.
Yes.
Perfect sense.
Well, Europe is small. You can do that, right?
Yes.
You can do that.
Yeah.
France is as big as Texas, actually.
Yeah.
It's closer than Arizona, that's for sure.
Yeah, right? So you went to travel, you spoke a foreign language that you were learning before you went, and you actually got around a country speaking French.
Yes.
Wow. Very cool.
And I was up there 6 months of study. And Marseille is also not the easiest city to navigate, and it has a reputation for being a little dangerous. But
yeah, wow.
So it was a little nerve-wracking to be there, but I knew that this trip was something that was going to go well for me in the end.
So then you got into this program. They asked you to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, so after I came home from the trip, I went through a really, really rough and painful and turbulent time in my life where I lost contact with somebody extremely close to me. And the person that initially I learned French for in the first place.
Oh, I see.
And so, in addition to that, and dealing with the fallout of having to leave my old job at the behavioral analysis clinic that I'd worked for 4 years, so the combination of all that just crushed me to the bone.
Sucked, yeah.
And so I did get a new position as a part-time employee at UHCL, where we're working on the grant-funded program to go help teachers in local school districts deal with students that they have challenging behavior. So I had that going for me, but then I decided I found the Global Autism Project on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And just a random sponsored ad. I'm like, this sounds cool. Hey, I've already traveled overseas.
Wow.
I feel like I'd be ready to do it again. I want to do it again next year. But it would be cool to do this as part of my day job, where I'm helping people with autism myself. I'm going to try this. And so I fill out the application form 1 or 2 days of I don't want this to slip away. I need to just do this now. Think about it later. Because sometimes we do have to take this leap of faith in our lives.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
Let God sort out the rest of it, because I didn't know if I was going to get in. I was really nervous about the interview process, but I did a whole lot of prep for it, and I rocked the interview.
Oh, yeah?
But before I actually got on the line, the last 2 or so minutes before I got called, I sat down and I put on a prayer meditation for God's will to be done.
Wow.
I said, I had known from all of the experiences I'd just been through with leaving a job or losing people, that sometimes doors will open for a reason, sometimes they'll close for a reason, even if we don't understand why. But so then, and there were some other opportunities that I'd had that I thought would have worked out for me that looked good to get a new full-time job, but that didn't end up happening, and I didn't understand why. But now I was a lot more used to the idea after all of this life experience that if this door is meant to open, then it will open, and if it's not, then then it would stay shut, and I would know to do something else. And it was a little difficult to get over a fear of it, and other people in my life were like, "Are you sure you're going to get into this? Are you sure that this is going to work out for you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trusting God on this one."
Wow.
And he ended up coming through for me. It took a lot longer than I expected to get the answer back, but they accepted me in.
Wow.
So how was that waiting process for you?
It was stressful because it took a few days longer than they said it would. And I'm just sitting around is this going to happen or not? Because I need to decide where I might be going. Because I might have gotten the chance to go to Japan and see my uncle. But I didn't end up doing that because I had this trip instead. But I had to figure out, what am I going to do next? Or am I going to be able to go on another position, some other work opportunity? I really wanted them to... And that experience actually helped me counsel another friend of mine who was going through a similar situation with waiting on the job offer she was getting and deciding whether to do that or to go home and see her family or move somewhere else entirely. But she had to wait and figure that out. So
in some of the difficult times that you referred to a little bit earlier, with Heart for Excellence, the struggle that we have in this life, there's challenges of so many different kinds. What do you find inspires you to kind of keep pressing on, moving forward and not letting the pain define us or keep us from moving forward?
A lot of that is through life experience. I deal with depression and anxiety in my everyday life, and it does at times really overwhelm me. But there's always something new to strive for, and there's a lot of inspirational writers, or being also a very passionate fan of music, and I've written a lot of music reviews for the webzine that I work at. where I deal with music that handles these kinds of themes, where it's confronting the fact that life is really challenging, but there's always something new to go for at the end of it.
And by the way, I'll put a link to those reviews, because those reviews are almost like books. I mean, they're very in depth. You know, you have to check it out. There's a review and there's an end review. It's totally different.
I've even actually recently expanded my approach to it, where it's like weaving what the music sounds like with the themology behind the words and fictional story, where it's like the music is its own character in the story. And so I use that to very powerful and I think poignant effect on the last piece that I wrote, which was inspired directly by a very, very painful loss of a relationship that I went through in the summer. And it was a band that the two of us both liked also, very, very much so. And it happened just 1 week before the release of the album. And the album itself was inspired by the tragic death of their guitar player. So taking all of those information together, it gives you a thread where you also play into the theme of the record itself, that it being post-apocalyptic in nature. You paint yourself into this fictional world that's been destroyed. And you have to find a way to survive in it and adapt to the fact that life isn't ever going to be the same, but even in the most bleak of circumstances, you can find a way through to a new tomorrow. And that's how I wrote myself out of that really difficult time. Was the person in my life was gone, but her spirit still guided me through. And I kept all of the good things that I learned and all of the lessons I learned, and they helped me get to a new place. If I hadn't gone through all of this, I would never have gone overseas if I hadn't met this person in the first place. And if I hadn't gone overseas, I wouldn't have even tried to make this my first trip overseas. And if I hadn't learned a language for that purpose as well, I wouldn't have been able to succeed at this language. So all of that, once I got accepted to that position in Prague, it really put a lot of things into perspective in the sense that, yes, this was a really painful and difficult event in my life, and I'm still dealing with the emotional consequences of it, because that sort of thing changes you. But on the other hand, it's brought me to an opportunity that I would have otherwise never had. That is by far the biggest and most exciting thing that's ever happened to me.
There's quite often in life, we always find there's a silver lining sometimes. You've heard that expression, I'm sure. Sometimes it's the will or the motivation to look for it, because so many people, I think, can go through a hard time and they get stuck there, but you're inspiring, right? Because here you are, a tough time, and yet you're finding the energy to press on, to find the silver lining and go, hey, this was a painful experience, and yet in the same breath, in the same moment, because of this painful experience, here's some other great things that were brought into my life that were inspiring. Is that about right?
And I've tried to keep that. I mean, some of these things have been really difficult to hold on to because they can be reminders of the past. And you just have to move forward and take the good and let the pain heal eventually over time. There's one scene in the story that I wrote that's just really gruesome and dark and detailing the terrible state of my mental health at the time. But after that's like the lowest you can go, and then after that you start to realize there's something else out there besides doom and gloom and despair. Because you can't live in something like that forever. And I know I couldn't, but there's a period of time that you're there and it's normal, but eventually there's nowhere to go but up.
I think as humans we try to avoid pain. And I mean, it just seems to be normal, and I get that. I can tell you that I don't like to go through pain or struggling situations, but yet the reality is in the midst of those struggles, we start defining what we truly believe or coming to terms with what we might truly believe. And I think it's those times are important to embrace and not avoid, because when we avoid them, I think what happens, we start stuffing a lot of stuff, and then they explode later on at inopportune times. And it seems like you always seem to find a way to find the silver lining, work through it, and not stuff it. Is that...
Yeah, I mean, there's a point when you're honest to yourself and you're honest to God about the fact that you are going through a terrible time.
Yeah, I like that.
And I believe I was very angry. I was like, why did this person come into my life in the first place when now she's gone? And I thought I was going to be with this person in the end. Yeah. I thought it was 100% certain. And I'm like, now what? Like, this is more what I was looking for than I could ever even possibly imagine. And now what?
Yeah, because it's kind of reminds me of what you were saying, is that the book of Job, one of my favorite books in the Bible.
Yes.
If you really think about it, 90% of the book of Job is essentially Job telling God, you suck, why is this happening to me? But yet it's, in a way, it's a good thing because you're actually processing that experience, you know?
Yes.
Because one of the worst things that I've done in the past is you either stuff it down or worse yet, in my case, you numb it out with alcohol or these other things. But I think
true Pole.
Yeah, well, that's true. You know, that was the stereotype. Hey, I'm Polish. I drink vodka. It's okay. That's how the Polacks deal with their pain.
That's our medication.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing as prescribed. You know, from father to grandfather. The generations. But I think that it's and part of my spiritual journey, and it seems like you learned this a lot earlier than I did, is that it's actually good to talk these things out with God. Because you give him space and permission to work in your life, and one of the worst things you can do is to cut off that dialogue, numb it out, stuff it down, and pretend that it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, you can be honest with God because He's heard it all. Okay,
great point. Yeah, that's
so
true.
I love what you guys are saying, like the honesty in the relationship, and realizing that our God is big enough; He can take it. Yeah. It's not like we're going to crush him with something he didn't see coming or he does not understand.
Yes.
And the fact that we can be honest helps us to process. And I think in that honesty, that's when healing begins. It's like to say, I love this lady, this woman. And I thought I was going to, you're being so vulnerable. This is so cool, Andrew. Thank you. And saying that it really hurt when she left. But the fact that you can say that and not blame her and just say she was like this, that, and the other.
But she was an absolutely wonderful human being.
Yeah, and just to say this is the truth. Yeah. And to acknowledge that. I find that inspiring because so many people are afraid to be truthful with themselves.
Yeah. And
they take it out on others. This other person, it's their fault. And they play a victim role.
Well, for me, it was more of my fault. Like, the last thing I wanted to do when this all started was lose it.
Yeah.
And I made a whole buck ton of mistakes. But
you learned.
Yeah, I did.
That's the most important thing.
It was the absolute catalyst for a thing. I have to change a few things in my life. And I have to get over myself and make something really positive in my life and be my own human being because as a person with autism, it can be difficult to function all on your own and have a fully independent life. And for a long time, I haven't felt like I was there. I still don't feel like I'm there, but I'm making a lot more progress than I ever have because I'm really trying to do things for myself, to do things to better myself, not necessarily because they're easy, but because they're hard. I took a whole road trip around this gigantic state of Texas for about 1,300 miles, pretty much all on my own.
Yeah. Wow.
So I got to see a whole lot of what this great state has to offer. And I was determined to do that all by myself. I was determined to put together a lot of the planning for going to Prague by myself. Like, I wasn't even going to tell my parents that I was doing this, and then they found out through Dropbox. I heard you're trying to go to, internationally. Dang it, you weren't supposed to know this yet.
I was supposed to be surprised.
So what are some of those challenges that you refer to? Like, again, this is, I don't have anybody in my immediate family with autism, but when you say some of the struggles of day-to-day living with autism, living on your own independently, what's that look like just a little bit in a nutshell or however you can share?
Well, at least clearly I have my own place.
Yeah.
So there is that, but it can prove to be difficult when you're in a professional setting because you may not understand all of these subtle social rules and contexts and so you may not always understand or look at people and realize what they're thinking, but based on facial expressions or have difficulty understanding emotions and it may be difficult to have close relationships. I've never been able to I've never actually been in a romantic relationship, although I've had several prospects. None of them has ever ended up becoming anything.
Right.
So that can be prove to be an extremely big challenge for us. So.
And yet you seem to find such... Just listening to you for the short time over there at Menchie's eating frozen froyo, right?
Yeah, we call it froyo now.
It was good, right?
And said last night we had one day to go to froyo.
And it's so inspiring that you've taken time to put together a fundraiser to help you do something with meaning and purpose of getting to Prague for a conference to help other people, to benefit others. Yes. That is so beautiful and amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that conference?
Trevor, how about we save it for the next episode?
Sure. Are we running out of time?
Yeah, we just. I think it's a perfect point. It's kind of amazing how once we get going, we go forever. But let's just stop right here.
I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
We'll pick it up in the next episode.
Great.
Andrew, thank you so much for being so welcoming to us, and we'll talk to you guys soon in the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
You've got to wait till next time.